The Chinese Navy had crafted a dangerous strategy to eliminate the American aircraft carrier precisely at 7:42 in the morning on July 12, 2025. Three Chinese Y-20 cargo jets suddenly launched an assault on the USS Gerald R. Ford battle group. They approached disguised through international waters close to Guam, seeming like regular transport planes to every monitoring system. What the American naval force didn't realize was that for 31 minutes, these aircraft had been quietly releasing countless invisible drones scattered throughout the atmosphere like unseen phantoms, tracking every action of the US ships beneath. The day was bright and clear. No storm clouds, no alerts, simply standard patrol duties in the Philippine Sea. However, within the following 3.5 minutes, what began as normal operations transformed into the most sophisticated multi-platform trap ever witnessed in contemporary maritime warfare. A regular military exercise was about to become one of history's most significant pivotal moments. An event that would push the globe closer toward worldwide conflict. Flying at great heights, three Chinese Y-20 cargo planes moved into neutral airspace, sending out typical commercial identification signals to American satellites and detection systems. They looked innocent, transport jets following normal flight paths. However, their cargo would alter the entire situation. Shortly after, from their open compartments, a cloud of robotic stealth aircraft was launched. Almost 100 of them, designed like Sea Rays and covered in radar-blocking materials, they glided quietly toward the USS Gerald R. Ford Naval Group, positioned hundreds of miles southeast of Guam. At ocean surface, another assault wave moved. Four H-6K attack planes flying extremely low released special floating devices containing electronic disruption equipment. These devices formed a blinding barrier of interference across all communication frequencies, blocking radar and satellite connections within a 60-mile area. This wasn't a conventional attack. It was an electronic trap, expertly planned and purposefully confusing. Next, the primary attack force showed up. 16 J-16 combat jets hidden by the jamming field dropped from middle altitude and fired YJ-91 anti-radar rockets targeting the fleet's exterior air defense networks. These weren't random strikes. They were designed to disable the American ships before any response could happen. From above and below, the attack was carried out in a vertical squeeze. Stealth aircraft diving from higher altitude, rockets screaming just feet above the water surface. The whole mission was timed to the exact second. Each assault layer combined with others, making the American defense network divide its focus in every direction. For 3 minutes and 40 seconds, the airspace over the Philippine Sea became a wild display of velocity, darkness, and sound. The Chinese attack squadron had performed something the world had never witnessed before, a multi-platform overwhelming strike using fake targets, drones, stealth technology, and computer warfare all combined together. No warning, no declaration, just a planned assault. China wanted to achieve total surprise. Watch the incredibly quick response of the world's strongest defense network. Please support us by hitting like, subscribing, and sharing your opinions in the comments. During the mayhem created by China's targeted strike, the US fleet had only moments to respond, but it didn't require more time because the system had already detected it approaching. On board the USS Princeton, the Aegis defense system activated like a control room during maximum alert. While Chinese jammers covered the airwaves, E-2D Hawkeye warning planes, already flying, switched to different radar frequencies, cutting through the electronic noise like a blade through mist. Within moments, enemies were spotted. Information from Hawkeye's radar entered the Shared Engagement Network, CEC, immediately updating the weapon control systems of every vessel in the battle group. The fleet's outer defense came alive. From the USS Chancellorsville, 8 SM-6 defense missiles launched straight up, climbing high before turning to target incoming rockets. At the same time, cram gun systems started spinning, following low-flying drones with incredible speed. The sky filled with missile trails, bullets, and explosions. Further away, FA-18 Super Hornets, already on regular patrol, received target information through data links and rushed straight into the drone swarm, firing AIM-120 missiles with exact accuracy. Groups of Chinese stealth drones were destroyed in mid-air before reaching the carrier's defense zone. On deck, the USS Gerald R. Ford's battle center switched to complete attack preparation. Personnel secured protective doors. Emergency repair teams got into position, but the defense line was already working. The multiple layer protection system, aircraft in the sky, Aegis at sea, fighter jets in the air, and automatic gun systems on deck had worked perfectly under pressure. One Chinese rocket got through and hit the USS Chancellorsville, breaking its radar tower, but every other weapon and drone was stopped before hitting. It wasn't just chance, it was planning. Years of spending on networked combat, layered protection, and fast response weapons had succeeded in just minutes, even under the cover of jamming, tricks, and overwhelming numbers. American systems communicated with each other instantly, adjusting, targeting, and destroying threats with scary effectiveness. Beijing had planned to shock. Instead, they found themselves looking at a fleet that not only survived but was already getting ready to fight back. Are you still with me? Good, because next is when America demonstrates to the world the real strength of weapons and technology. At 8:11 in the morning, just 29 minutes after the first Chinese drone appeared on the horizon, the battle group's orders changed from defense to revenge. Inside the command center of USS Gerald R. Ford, a red warning light flashed above the tactical map. Attack permission granted. Washington had approved the response. What happened next wasn't a simple counterattack. It was an organized multi-platform payback, unlike anything ever seen in Pacific waters. First to launch were the F-35C Lightning fighters. 24 of them took off in less than 6 minutes. Their vertical launch coordinated by the Ford's magnetic launching systems. Invisible to detection, they flew in triangle formation, staying close to sea level before splitting into 3 groups. Air control, deep attack, and jamming support. Right behind, FA-18 Super Hornets roared upward in pairs, carrying AGM-58 precision long-range missiles. Each jet held weapons that could break through reinforced shelters from over 500 miles away, but the air was only one part of the response. From the USS Zumwalt, 80 miles to the east, advanced magnetic rail weapons, once thought experimental, shot high-speed projectiles at incredible speeds toward coastal radar stations on Hainan Island. Moving at over 7 times the speed of sound, the tungsten bullets needed no explosives. Their impact alone was destructive. Meanwhile, 6 MQ-9 Reaper drones flew at 45,000 feet, scanning Chinese radar locations and electronic signals connected to satellites and F-35C information streams. They gave live battlefield vision. Every rocket, every radar building, every command post was marked. Then came the rockets from 3 Arleigh Burke destroyers. 28 Tomahawk Block 5 long-range missiles shot into the sky almost together, each twisted in mid-air before diving into low-altitude jets programmed with digital scene recognition guidance. They would strike their targets from over 1,000 miles with less than 10 feet error. Target locations included the Longtian Air Base in Fujian, source of the J-16 attackers, a radar facility near Lingshui on Hainan Island, several military fuel storage areas and satellite communication stations on the southeast coast. At sea level, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets began blocking Chinese communications, while US Navy P-8A patrol aircraft tracked enemy submarines surfacing from nearby bases. It was no longer a fight. It was a display of coordination, range, and overwhelming power. Every level of American strength had been activated: stealth planes, long-range missiles, drone surveillance, magnetic weapons, and satellite-guided command systems. All performed with a speed that gave China no time to respond. And as the final wave of aircraft disappeared into the eastern sky, one thing became obvious. The United States hadn't just survived the attack, it had replied with a message written in precise fire. Let's examine the severe damage to China. The attack didn't explode. It developed like an iron fist closing over a battlefield map. At 8:49 in the morning, the first Tomahawk entered Chinese airspace over Fujian province. It was flying just 50 feet above the terrain, avoiding hills, forests, and radar signals. The guidance system wasn't searching for coordinates. It was searching for landscapes matching every mountain shape, every coastal outline like a machine that remembered the Earth. It hit Hangar C at Longtian Air Base, cutting through the roof and exploding with surgical force. Inside were 6 J-20 stealth fighters still on emergency standby. When the fire cleared, the hangar was just bent metal bars and melted steel. 27 seconds later, a tungsten bullet from a Zumwalt railgun penetrated the underground command shelter of the same base. Not exploded, penetrated. Concrete didn't break. It collapsed inward, folding downward like a crushed organ. On Hainan Island, a satellite communication station essential for real-time battlefield coordination simply stopped transmitting. From space, US satellites watched it disappear like a light switching off in the darkness. By 9:07 in the morning, the Chinese Southern Theater Command had lost 37 fighter aircraft, J-20, J-16 and JH-7, either destroyed or damaged beyond repair. 8 military fuel tanks consumed by fireballs visible from orbit. 2 reinforced command centers, now nothing more than burned concrete shells. An estimated 400 personnel, some dead, many wounded, others separated from central command and wandering lost inside disabled bases. There was no dramatic explosion, no visible breakdown, just sudden radio quiet. One Chinese colonel, stuck beneath the wreckage of a destroyed radar tower, managed to send one final coded message. They see everything. We are blind. Civilians nearby recorded columns of black smoke rising like pillars from another dimension. Their recordings flooded local networks before sensors could respond. And across the South China Sea, warships of the People's Liberation Army Navy remained motionless, sensors working, weapons prepared, but nobody knew where to aim. Because in less than 1 hour, the American revenge had wiped out the command structure, disabled the sensors, and burned the fuel that China would need to continue fighting. By 9:30 in the morning, the silence from Chinese command posts had become overwhelming, not only to Beijing, but to the whole world. At the Pentagon, top defense leaders met in the National Military Command Center. Live satellite images confirmed the extent of destruction. Air bases reduced to skeletal remains, fuel storage still burning, command centers quiet. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs leaned forward and spoke just 6 words. We need to control the story. Half a world away, Beijing exploded in confusion. Official state media released pre-recorded footage of PLA naval exercises denying any battle, but leaked private communications showed something completely different. A rush to evaluate the extent of the damage, identify remaining assets, and above all, respond without starting a regional war. At 10 Howard in the morning, Beijing time, China's foreign ministry called the US ambassador, accusing Washington of an excessive, destabilizing act of aggression. Yet, behind closed doors, Chinese generals were demanding explanations, not from America but from their own broken command structure. Meanwhile, the shock spread outward. Japan put its entire self-defense forces on increased alert, activating missile batteries in Okinawa. Australia sent 2 destroyers to strengthen the US 7th Fleet. South Korea launched F-35 squadrons and positioned Patriot interceptors along its southern coast. Taiwan went silent. Every airfield, every radar dish, every runway active but waiting. At NATO headquarters in Brussels, an emergency meeting was called. The Secretary General stated directly, "This is the most serious military exchange between nuclear powers in the 21st century." Alert levels across Europe rose to the equivalent of DEFCON 3, while cyber defense units in Germany, France and the UK began checking for signs of revenge attacks in the digital realm. Even Russia, watching quietly from the north, moved 3 ballistic missile submarines from Vladivostok into open ocean. It said nothing, but the message was obvious. We're observing. On global markets, oil jumped past $120 per barrel, airlines changed routes, technology stocks dropped, gold skyrocketed, and in living rooms across America, millions of older citizens, many veterans of previous wars, sat motionless, watching the news scroll across their screens, because for the first time in decades, a single frightening question returned: is the world one era away from war? The smoke may have cleared, the rockets may have stopped flying, but what this clash revealed will echo far beyond the Pacific. In just under 1 hour, the world witnessed how modern warfare is no longer fought over days or weeks. It's measured in minutes, in data packets, and in machine-to-machine decisions. The Chinese attack was quick, advanced, and shockingly quiet, but America's defense, layered, integrated, and deadly, did more than survive. It overwhelmed, yet victory in battle is not victory in peace. The cost of such a confrontation extends beyond the damage done. Trust is broken, diplomacy stops. The balance of power has shifted, not in territory but in perception. For decades, the Pacific Ocean was a buffer, now it's a fuse. Washington may have shown its readiness and determination, but the question remains, how many more red lines can be crossed before one sparks something irreversible? And for us, citizens, veterans, families watching from thousands of miles away, the lesson is sobering. Deterrence only works when the other side believes you'll use it. And survival now depends not just on strength, but on speed, clarity, and unity. This was not World War III, but it was a practice run. If you found this content important,